Microphone check. 1, 2. What is this? It's just something I've always wanted to say, guys. What's up? Joe Morrison, 49SAF Pod, coming to you from the 8th floor of City Hall. And today we're talking with Dan Perpich and Linda Janes of Vertical Harvest Hydroponics, an award-winning startup based out of Anchorage, Alaska. Now, why is this a great conversation? And what's the award these guys won? Well, it's a great conversation because Dan talks about two things in our interview that I think are really important. Well, let's even extend that to 3. First, he gives a really good problem solution statement, and he's out traveling and he has this eureka moment when he realizes the problem that northern climates face with fresh vegetables and how he can solve it and how that might be worth some money. And then about 10 minutes in, they start talking about the importance of bootstrapping and the importance of anchoring revenue and how that's helped their business a little bit. Later on in the interview, they talk about the fact that there's 3 co-founders and they don't always agree, but they get through it. So all good parts of the conversation. As for the award that they won, they are the American Farm Bureau's Entrepreneur of the Year. And not only did that come with quite a few accolades, but it came with a little bit of cash as well. And I'm just so happy for them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and listen to Dan and Linda of Vertical Harvest Hydroponics. Here we go.
Wait, is it going to make noise?
No, but that's why you have to come to the mic.
Oh, so we're not moving the mic at all?
We're not moving the mic at all.
We're not moving.
Okay. All right, Dan, say hi. Come on.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, so 49SAF Pod, Joe Morrison here. We have taken over the CFO's office. I'm thankful he's on a plane because this looks really weird right now. Pretty low tech as always here. 1 microphone, 3 people sitting in it and getting really comfortable. So, Linda and Dan, please introduce yourselves.
Dan Perpich, and I'm just happy to be here.
Linda Janes, same here.
So tell me what's your guys' favorite for-profit business, each of you?
I'm really a boring person, and I happen to think the NASDAQ is the coolest for-profit business in the world today.
Oh, that's very interesting. You're all about finance. Explain why you think the NASDAQ is the best business today. And
I think it's very cool because of they're doing a ton of really exciting work in financial technology, specifically in blockchain implementation. And one of the coolest things that they've done in the last year, and hopefully they give me some credit for this for the marketing, is they underwrote a pre-IPO entirely in a proprietary blockchain technology last August. And I think that's amazing.
I'm going to admit that a lot of what you just said flew over my head and has landed at Anchorage International Airport. Dan, Linda, what's your favorite for-profit business and why?
Okay, so I'm going to approach it from a different angle. Okay, so don't judge me here. And it's not my favorite.
No judgments.
It's just what comes to my mind right now. I'll have to probably say McDonald's. Don't laugh. McDonald's, because a company that can replicate something so many times and drive profitability and analyze and scrutinize every single part of everything that they do, from where the customers walk in, how long they spend there, redoing the stores so that people hang out there, spend more time, spend more dollars. I can admire that, although I don't eat there, I have to say. But I just, as a principle of just the business mindset behind it.
Have you watched The Founder yet?
No.
So The Founder is a movie that is Michael Keaton's in it, and it's about Ray Kroc.
Ah, yes.
And I haven't seen it yet either. I hear it's amazing. I agree with you. McDonald's is incredible. Like their whole reboot in the early 2000s when they were just getting creamed. So cool. But we're actually, that is kind of a segue. It's kind of a segue. All right. No, it is. There's a segue there because it's about food and you guys are the principals of a food company. So somebody please tell us what Vertical Harvest is.
We're a company based here in Anchorage, and we take 40-foot container vans. We upcycle them to commercial hydroponic plant production facilities, and we try to sell them to communities across Alaska and Canada so they can grow their own food. in a nutshell. Linda?
Yeah, I mean, we manufacture farm equipment. We make it easier for people to grow anywhere around the world. I mean, anywhere you can have water and electricity, you can take our product, drag it in there, plug it in, and grow year-round delicious greens. And what's not to like about it? But I'm biased.
So tell us the origin story of the business. Let's start there.
I guess for me, it all started about 5 years ago. I was with the U.S. Army here in Alaska, and I ended up in northern Canada doing work with the Canadian Forces. And I walked into a supermarket in a town of about 100 people in the middle of winter, and I saw head lettuce for $18 a head. And came back to Fairbanks, where I was at the time, and got into some of the smaller communities around Fairbanks and saw the same prices and just sort of had to think, there's got to be a better way here. A few years after that, I met a horticulturist from Fairbanks down here in Anchorage, and I told him, look, I know a little bit about numbers, but I don't know anything about growing plants. He said, that's great. I know how to grow plants. I don't know anything about numbers. I said, well, maybe we ought to work together here. Linda joined the team shortly after, and here we are today.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Linda, how did you connect with Dan, and how did you come to join the team?
So I first connected with Cameron, and, as you know, I've been a part of a startup before, and I kind of, I liked that whole vibe. I thought I, fit in well into that. I had my son in 2014, and I had worked for a native corporation, and I was thinking, well, I really want to join a startup or start a business or something to that effect. And just kind of that manifestation, I ended up running into Cameron at TEDx at the library. And him and I are talking, and he's displaying things from the makerspace. He was there with them. And he said something about his small business. I'm like, oh, well, tell me about your small business. And the small business that he was talking about is vertical harvest. Next thing we know, we are sitting at one of the coffee shop at Kaladi's and talking about how to do the website better, how to do everything else, what I think about this, that, and the other. And then I'm meeting Dan and Cameron at the Black Cup. and then we go straight into putting slides together for pitching a week after that. So, yeah, pretty high trajectory.
And help me out. Who's Cameron?
Cameron is our third partner. He's not here today. He's a horticulturist.
And a plant whisperer.
The plant whisperer. Okay, very cool. Yes, the plant whisperer. So, help me out. This is an interesting thing. Every now and then we talk about clusters in Alaska and emerging clusters of economic development. Now I'm putting on my nerdy quasi-economic developer hat. And food tech, ag tech is kind of a thing. Like, we have a lot of food companies, different business models, different sectors that are just kind of popping up. What's your take on that? So why is this help me out, Dan or Linda, why is this a big market?
From our perspective, it's food in Alaska has been challenging. I've lived up here for 10 years, Linda for much longer than that, at least 11. And it's just, it's a challenge up here. And to a lot of people, it's a real problem. And I think we got a lot of talented entrepreneurs that are out there trying to solve people's problems for them. And since that's a big concern, I think maybe it's just a natural thing. We see a lot of food companies that are starting up to try to give people fresh, local, healthy food.
I think it's we probably look at it like that in Alaska because this is kind of our little epicenter here. But we'll probably find that same story in many other states because of the rise of the local food. The locavore, everybody's crazy about the local food. The federal government is giving all kinds of grants to cities and everything else, how to make your city local food friendly. That's the rise of it. I mean, I remember reading that the farmers market, the number of farmers market has quadrupled in the last decade. So, and that's nationwide. So if you think about it like that, there's just a lot more local food available. People really appreciate it.
Yeah, it really interests me that there's been a lot of startups in the space in the Alaska food scene, and that there's been a lot of even investor interest in the Alaska food scene, which, both took me by surprise, but was a welcome surprise, I'd say. So switching gears a little bit, you guys, let's talk a little bit about strategy. I was on a call a couple of weeks ago, and this person in investment banking made an argument. He said that today's generation of entrepreneurs know how to raise money, and they don't know how to anchor revenue. So I think this is interesting because you guys are defying that. Talk a little bit about how you've decided to bootstrap, how you've gotten to where you are, and how you decided that was your strategy rather than like going out and raising around.
I don't know if that was ever the conscious decision. It's, a wise man once told me, you put off raising money as long as you can, so you don't get diluted out of the scene. And I guess we just kind of took that to heart, and we put in our own money at the beginning. And we were lucky enough that, and maybe even creative enough that along the way we were able to sell off our prototype stuff and our beta stuff and generate, we weren't eating caviar and living in palaces by any means, but we survived and we're here today. And now, for us, we're looking down the road and we're saying, well, money is a tool, and if we're going to raise money, we need to know what we're going to do with it. And I think we've learned the hard way that, you got to count every dollar, every cent. And I think if we decide to go that route in the future, it'll be easier. But I would agree with you. I've helped a lot of startups before I did this. And a lot of the focus was good idea. Now we go get money. Now we got to try to do something.
Yeah. Okay. Here you go. All right. You've got an idea. Let's go pitch investors.
And it's just, from a whole bunch of standpoints, I think it's much, the probability of gross value creation is much higher if it goes, good idea. Let's try to do something nights and weekends. Okay, it is a good idea. Now let's prove it's a good idea. Okay, and then you get to the right point in time and you say, now let's go get some money because we know exactly what we're going to do. And you can't answer every question. There's always going to be some unanswered questions out there. There's just uncertainty and risk are a part of life. But, you got to try to answer at least some of them. And there's a couple instances that come to mind. I helped a company in Europe get some funding for a medical device. And some of the basic initial questions were just, what do you want to spend your money on? And the three people across the table just sort of look at each other. And it makes it very challenging to justify it, I think. And then you work with groups like that for even a workshop for a weekend or 2 weeks in an accelerator or whatever. That can be wildly beneficial to a lot of these young startups. And I'm not here to promote anyone, but I do have to commend Launch Alaska. I think it's a very very important function and a very, very important support network and thing to have here locally to help startups get to that stage. I think some of that just base education. I mean, entrepreneurs are smart people. Most of them that I've met are very, very capable, and they're driven and they're ambitious. And if they can just get a little bit of guidance, like an organization like that provides, then they're going to knock it out of the park. It's going to be stellar.
But I agree with Dan that it wasn't intentional for, that we just didn't have money in the beginning. But you got to think, right? Like we developed a product, and that's the thing. And product development is a long kind of term game here. And a lot of business people will tell you, well, start with a service. You can get cash coming in right away. Well, the thing is with product development, you go through iterations, and then you have to test it too. So it's not like you just build it and then you're like, oh, let's jump to the next stage here. No, I mean, when we built our Gen 2 system, we grew stuff in it for a year. That's how long it took, a year to be able to figure out what it grows well, how it grows, test all the systems. So, that's a difficult part, and R&D is costly. And should investors invest in a company that's still in R&D? I mean, where are you going to be, especially something that's new like that, right? So that's probably the biggest cause of the lack of cash.
Yeah, it's true that investors want to fund a business and they don't usually want to fund an idea. So you guys have been grinding it out for 3 years. How long have you been at this?
Unofficially, 3 years and about maybe a month. Officially, we incorporated the business in August 2014. August 2014.
Yeah, so you're coming up on 3 years here shortly. Talk a little bit about two things. One, there's three of you. And, I assume a real collaborative kind of approach to things. How do you guys make decisions? What do you do when you don't see eye to eye? How does that work?
You'd like us to demonstrate.
Yes. Don't demonstrate. But you're all still together. Okay, bright sides here. You're all still together. It's been 3 years. Life is not perfect. How do you get through a challenge like that?
Oh, Linda's still laughing over there. I don't know, Joe. We just sort of shut the door and yell it out. I don't know.
Yeah, all right.
I think we're all we don't agree on everything all the time. And if we can't reach consensus, eventually we at least agree to make a decision and stick by the decision. And we don't always agree with them, but we discuss them ad nauseum until we can't handle it anymore, and then we decide and we move on.
But I think it's really special that the three of you guys are still together. Like, that's hard to do.
Well, I think one of our strengths is that we don't hold grudges. So we may get pissed and whatever and growl, but the next day it's like, okay, well, we still got this business to run. We're on the same team. We have to realize that. So that's probably the biggest thing. If you're the kind of person that keeps grudges, how are you supposed to move on? So the idea is that you got to move on, look towards the next thing that you're doing together. But teamwork is paramount. We've always done things together better as a team than individually.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the award you won, and then we'll wrap it up.
We were very lucky. Last summer, Lance pointed us in the direction of the U.S. Farm Bureau. He said, U.S. Farm Bureau's got this entrepreneurship challenge. We had heard of it, but that just sort of made us take a closer look, and we said, well, let's do this. How much time do we got? And we had about a day and a half to prepare the packet. So we locked ourselves in the office and we prepared the packet, and we sent it in, and U.S. Farm Bureau called us and said, hey, you're one of the 4 finalists. And we said, really? But they were serious. No, really, they were serious. And we felt very privileged. We flew down to D.C. To meet with the other finalists and with the Farm Bureau, and they were awesome. All of our experiences with the Farm Bureau have been just fantastic organization. For those of you out there that are not familiar with the challenge, U.S. Farm Bureau got together and said, well, what do young entrepreneurs that are helping develop agriculture need? Well, they need a little bit of help and a little bit of money. So they said, well, let's make this challenge. We'll give everybody a little bit of help and some people a little bit of money. And that's exactly what they did. We flew down there in October. Then we flew down to Phoenix for the convention in January and actually had our final competition. And Linda got up on stage and she killed it, and we won. And we feel very, very privileged about that. And very humbled as well.
And to add, this our competition is available to anybody in the United States. So especially Alaska being, mostly rural, if you have any sort of business that, benefits the farm in rural Alaska, you should apply. They're going to be launching this year's competition here any day now. So just like Launch Alaska, part of the ecosystem, we have this thing that's available that's national thing. So you can definitely get a lot of press and media, out of this. So I would recommend people look into it.
Well, super awesome and super great to have an award-winning startup from Anchorage rocking the airwaves of 49SAF Pod. That's it for us. We are going to sign off. Dan, Linda, thank you so much. And Joe Morrison saying goodbye from the 8th floor of City Hall, where far too often Kelly Clarkson's music seeps its way down to Mayor Ethan Berkowitz's office, and everybody asks what's going on. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.